Welcome to Retirement with Jim. So today, retirement is different for everyone. So how much money is or should be is based on what your needs are, not a number someone else chooses. So for me, for example, I knew I was never going to save $1 million. I got started way too late in life, and life just came at me, and I have other things at at a time, and I wasn't so savvy about how much money I should put away. But what I also realized was I didn't need $1 million. I kind of knew what my lifestyle was going to be, and what I wanted to do, and so I just set a goal that said, okay, I had to be, in six-figure territory, and and get as much as I could out of it, but I knew I'd never, get or need, for that matter, $1 million. So you got to ask yourself, what does retirement mean to you? So, and you really have to ask that question kind of early enough as you're getting ready to retire and you're planning, certainly early enough in the planning stages to know what kind of money you want to save and feel you need to save. So you have to say to yourself, are you comfortable at home? Do you have things you like to do and that in retirement you maybe are planning to do? Obviously, if you're planning to travel, you're going to need money for that. And so depending on what your plans are for travel, it's going to dictate how much money you're going to need to save and set aside in the 401k to be able to, complete those plans, to be able to hit that target. For myself, I knew that, I wanted to travel, but I also knew I kind of wanted to just travel around the United States. I'm not so inclined to travel out of the country. And let's face it, as Americans, we're not the most popular anymore around the world. So staying within the country, to some degree, makes a whole lot of sense. A lot safer, a lot easier. Yes, there are things I would have loved to have seen, but there's plenty of things in this country that in my rest of my life, I probably won't get to see them all. So I'm okay with that. For me, I kind of like road trips, so I like, although I do love flying. Right now, flying, very costly, and God knows with everything going on, the last thing I want to be is in the airport just trying to get through the TSA lines. Forget that. So I will happily take road trips, and fits very nicely into what I like to do. So you got to ask yourself, are you content or will you be with your life? It's kind of important because you got to say to yourself, you got to have a certain amount of planning that goes involved with this. You got to be thinking about what you're going to do, what you'd like to do. And it's amazing because a lot of people don't think about maybe hobbies or things they're going to do. And you got to ask yourself, what's a Tuesday or a Wednesday of your life in retirement going to look like? Are you happy being home, doing nothing, going nowhere, no plans? There's where those questions come into play. Are you comfortable with your life? Because there are things that, might be a little bit of the boring, mundane, the everyday life. Are you good being at home with your husband or wife, your spouse? So hopefully you've had, plenty of conversations with each other about what your plans are, what your thoughts are, what you like, you agree on, disagree, what you want to do, maybe don't want to do. You really have to have sat down and had some good long conversations to make sure that the planning part of it really comes together and that you're both on the same page for what you both want. You ask yourself, how's your health? Because your health definitely plays a part because money isn't, no matter how much money you have, you're never going to buy any time, any additional time. You're also not going to buy better health. You might be able to afford to pay for health, but let's face it, if something happens, whether it's cancer, a heart attack, stroke, it's all out of your control. So the thing you have to ask yourself in terms of your health is, are you know, you want to be healthy enough in the early parts of your retirement so that you can enjoy your retirement. Because there's going to come a point where things slow down, your health slows down, or things happen, and you aren't as active. In your early 60s, you certainly should be healthy enough that you can really get up and out and do the things that you enjoy the most, and your health hopefully is in a good place for you. I can tell you that once you'll see changes in yourself, health wise, when you hit 60, 60 to 65, 65 to 70, 70 to 75. Those 5-year increments really change, how you feel, how much you slow down, how active you are, or may be, or may not be. It's amazing. I really didn't give that a whole lot of thought. You know, I'm 67, and the I can say that in this last year, I have slowed down a little bit more than I really thought I was going to. So I know kind of when 70 comes, okay, I'm doing my best to stay active, walking, moving, but I can see the handwriting on the wall that it will slow down even some more. So as you're planning that retirement, what it means to you, your income source, kind of like three things: Social Security, your 401k, and an alternate source, whether it's um, part-time job, gig, something. Most people don't have pensions anymore, so it's like a pension's not going to be something that's on the table. If you are, you're a very lucky individual. Um, so whether it's an annuity or you have rental property, something that'll give you some alternative source for income is a good thing to have in place. And along with that, early enough on, maybe in your 50s somewhere, you want to be building the kind of relationships so that as you go into your retirement, you've got people that you can kind of still hang out with and associate with and have, around your life. Because I can tell you, for many of us, I look at myself, I cultivated a lot of work relationships, a ton. But once I retired, they went away pretty quickly. I would tell you 6 months after I retired, uh, they didn't exist anymore. And, nothing wrong with that. That's just, they're still working and you're not. So that's just the way that goes. So you want to have some kind of relationships that, you're going to cultivate people that have the same likes and hobbies and interest, and you can bring them with you into that retirement. Otherwise, you are, yes, going to have to find some new friends and some new groups to socialize with, and you want to socialize. You want to be able to stay fairly active and enjoy that retirement. And depending on how outgoing you are, okay, might be easy, might not. So you got to ask yourself, what does retirement mean to you? I knew for me, I was going to be fairly um, modest in terms of what I had to live on. But I'm comfortable. There's really nothing I need or want. There are some things that would be nice to have, but the funny thing is, once you do retire, money isn't everything. It's the time you have with, your spouse, family, friends, your kids. enjoying, those things in your life. So tell me in the comments below, what does it mean to you? What are your thoughts? What are your plans? Let me know. So with that, I'm going to tell you have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.